Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. I really needed to do a video to explain to you a bit about these tow points or tie down points or recovery points or whatever points you want to call them. There's a lot of people still around online asking what did you get, what have you got, and what are the best ones and what do I need and whatever. So we're going to go through some of the pros and cons and what actual points on these vehicles are. Now, every vehicle is different. If you've got a four-wheel drive, it's likely that it did come with a form of tow point. Now, when we say tow, that's a pretty general term. You know what towing is. So towing, tow. Obviously, it's illegal to tow a vehicle. You need to get a tow truck to tow it anyway, right? I don't know if that's obvious, but actually, I'm pretty sure, I shouldn't say it's obvious, I'm pretty sure it's illegal to tow a vehicle, even though you can buy a tow rope. There you go. So it must be for private property and off-road use only. Okay, so tow point, I think, is what it's called by Toyota in the book. I think it refers to it as a tow point. Now, these points here, I'm going to give you some facts on them. Facts, right? This is not a tie-down point. Now, they may use it to tie down the vehicle, but it's not put there and designed to tie down a vehicle, okay? They are 16mm thick. Look, I've got some verniers here. Let's have a look. Let's confirm in case I'm wrong again. Right, so we just got a digital vernier here. We're going to turn it on. Right, there it is, pretty well zero. There it is, zero. I don't know if you can see that, zero. Close enough, right? We're going to open it up. I reckon they're about 16mm, right? So let's go over there. Let's measure the thickness of the steel. We'll give it a squeeze and we'll lock it up, right? And I'm going to bring it straight over to you and show you what it is, right? Let's have a look and see what they are. There you go, 16.1, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. You could squeeze it tighter. They're about 16mm. Good enough, right? So we'll put the verniers away. Now we know roughly the thickness of the steel. 16mm steel. There's got to be some engineers out there that know how strong that is. So I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever that that steel is strong. Now, the other thing I'd like to point out is it's welded to the chassis, okay? So when I say 360-degree weld, it's welded. It's not just tacked there or tacked there or tacked there, which would be quite strong, especially when you multiply it by here, and it's also behind as well. But we've got 360-degree welds all the way around, both sides there, and also that solid tube, and that's solid, not hollow, that goes all the way through, out the back of the other side of the chassis, where it's got two more 360-degree welds. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to figure out that ain't going nowhere, okay? That is not going anywhere. It's welded to your chassis, and the chassis is as strong as the rest of the car, okay? And it's all welded, it's steel. Now, on a negative, let's go negative for a moment and sort of go towards why some people believe it's not strong enough. Well, I'll tell you straight, the chassis itself, the chassis material, it's around about 2mm thick. Now, it may vary in different areas and whatever, but the ones I've looked at and measured those parts, it's about 2mm. So it's not massive, it's pretty small, maybe a little bit over that. I'm not going to get the micrometer out and make any examples of it, but it's certainly strong enough to hang this bull bar off that's shaken around on corrugations for hundreds of thousands of kilometres and decades. So it would be strong enough to tow the vehicle. Now, you just got to think about where you're using the vehicle and what you're doing with it. If you do something really stupid, like go and park it in a pool of quicksand and it's sunk down to the top of the wheels and it's like concrete, and you try and use any sort of point by applying massive pressure, whether it's winch or a snatch strap or anything else, there's a good chance that you may just tear the car to pieces like a tin can. Go and grab yourself a can of Coke, press pause, go grab a can of Coke, grab it, drink it, or a beer, whatever you want anyway. The point is, get a can and just grab each end of the can, the top and the bottom, and put gloves on, by the way, in case you cut yourself, and just twist it, and it just tears like a tin can. And that's what's going to happen here. Further up your chassis, if you buy recovery points that just bolt on the side here with 2 bolts, in my opinion, it's weaker because you're relying on bolts instead of all these massive welds. Now, I'm not the engineer, but some engineers give me guides along the lines of, for every inch of welding is about a ton of strength, right? So that around there would be at least an inch, so let's just say it's only 4 ton. I think that's a bit underrated, but again, we're not rating it. We're trying to point out how strong it is. But it's not a tin can, it's quite strong, and depending what accessories and setup you've got, sometimes your bull bar, like this bull bar for example, it's got another bracket that bolts on the side there, which would possibly get in the way of your recovery point, but it also goes up and it bolts to the side of the chassis there. So you could say it adds even a bit more strength. Now I'll tell you the problem is, and we've seen videos, if you go and look hard enough on YouTube, you'll find Prados that have had the whole front ripped off the car, and that's what's going to happen if you get it well enough stuck and you pull hard and fast enough. There's a possibility that's going to happen. Now, we've been using these vehicles in off-road environment for many years, and we've seen many vehicles recovered and, you know, pulled out, towed out, whether it's winching or snatch straps or whatever, in all sorts of different circumstances. And of course, other vehicles, we've seen other makes and models. A lot of the other makes and models have even got bigger recovery or tie down or tow points. They're not tie down points. They're not tie down points. No more tie down points. It is tow points. They've got a piece of steel here. It's twice the size of that. It comes around in a big hook. Why do you reckon it's there? You reckon it's a tie down point? No, you fool. It's a damn tow point. Okay, so tow point, tow point, tow point, right? Now what happens is, up here, further on the chassis, there's places it's welded, right? Now, the engineers tell me, and we know, because we've seen it in the decades we've been around, that when you weld, it makes a weak point along the side there, right? Along the side of the weld, kind of, I don't know, there's probably a technical word for it. You can put it in the comments. You're the expert on that, not me. But what I'm trying to say is, if you pull hard enough here, if it's not a direct pull in line with the chassis, which you'd have to have your recovery, you'd have to have no bull bar, and it'd have to be right up like about, you know, another 150 mil that way. So it's directly pulling the length of the chassis, if you know what I mean. It's a bit like, I don't know, I'll give a bad example. Let me come back to that. But what I'm trying to say is, not far back there's a weld here, right? And that's where the front of the chassis gets torn off. So use a bit of common sense. These tow points are perfectly fine and designed to tow the vehicle, and that's what you're doing. You're towing the vehicle, whether it's a matter of, and that's of course, you go for the easy option first, right? When you connect up a snatch strap, you don't connect it up, back the car right up to the car you're pulling out and take off like a rocket ship. That is just crazy, unnecessary and dangerous unnecessarily, okay? So you're going to gently take up the slack and you're going to try and drive and tow them out. And they can try and help a little bit. Now, it all depends on the circumstances, what ground they're on. If they're in sand, are they in mud, is it deep? Are they on rocks, you're on a hill? Are they in a dangerous position? There's a whole lot of variables, and you need to use some brain work, and people with experience, if you don't know what you're doing, you really need to be going out with people that do know what they're doing in case you get yourself in one of these situations, and perhaps you can learn from that. So start off slowly. They're perfectly strong enough to do that. We've seen some massive recoveries directly on one of these with a single line snatch strap direct to that, okay? And there's never been any issues whatsoever, okay? Now, with the recovery points that are bolted on the side, they are bolted in, and of course, you know, the bolts need to be torqued to specification for all that to work correctly. But I'd still suggest, if you've got a bit of a side pull, I'd much trust this being welded if it's pulling slightly to the side. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, you probably know already, but you've heard of an Equalizer Strap, right? So there's another strap that's usually fairly short. It can't be too short because you don't want it pulling these towards each other, okay? So it's normally about 3 meters long, so it'll come out and it'll create a V, and back here somewhere, about a meter and a half in front of the car, that's where you would join it. So you feed your normal it through the end of your normal snatch strap, and then you connect your D shackles here at each side, and you know the strap's connected. You don't have any, you don't connect it with a shackle. You feed it through itself. So that would be wise if you've got a situation where you're going, oh look, I'm not too sure, you know how, and you're not sure. If you're not sure, and you've got to give it a bit of curry, so that's what you upgrade to. So if you've got a situation where it's a bit slippery, whatever, you just need a bit of a tow, then you just put your line, you go gently. If that doesn't work, you back it up a little bit, maybe a meter of slack, and you just get them to sort of take off gently. Let the strap do the work. You don't need to put strain on the vehicles. It's like a lacquer band, okay? It doesn't take much, and it's just going to pop it out and get it moving. And once you're moving, do that, and then maybe a bit of a tow to get the vehicle being recovered to a safe place, or where it's not going to get stuck in, where you can stop again. But make sure you follow it the right distance, that you don't run over the strap if you're going to do that. So this is not full recovery 101. It's more about the recovery points. if you get a situation where it's, I don't know, let's just use a bad situation. You went to Fraser Island and you thought it'd be nice to take a photo of the Prado on the edge of the waterline, and you're there with a family, you're on your own, and you get out and everyone's having a good time. In the meantime, a couple of waves come up, and that's what happens, right? The vehicle sort of starts, the water gets washed away under the tyres, the sand starts, and next thing you know, you're buried, I don't know, it might only be, let's use the 6 inches deep example, say the tyres are buried, but you can still see your rims. If you try and take off hard, you'll just dig. You need to drive off gently. You'd probably still be able to drive out of that because the sand's rock hard. It's like a highway there, as this example. I would suggest that, then you a bit of a panic. You wave someone down, they're driving past you. You might not even have a strap, so you're going to bust their case to use their brand new strap because they know what they're doing. They don't get bogged and they don't want to get their strap out and get it dirty. So you should definitely always carry your own recovery gear. I'm going to put that in there. So that they get their strap out, connect it up. Hopefully you've got the right person, because if you've got the wrong person, you could just end up getting in more trouble. And you see it all the time in videos where, hey, guess what? They end up getting bogged as well, right? And in the meantime, your situation's getting worse. So you need to not panic. You need to stay calm. You need to make sure you're both on the same page. Communication. That's why you got to have a UHF. It's not a rush into this thing. It can be dangerous. These recovery situations, as we call it, or tow situations, can be dangerous if people don't take their time and they're not on the same page. A situation like that, you're not going to muck around. You're going to get your Equalizer strap out straight away because you may need to give it a little bit more. Look, it's borderline. You may be able to you'd probably just pop it out even on a single line without that Equalizer strap. But it'd probably, if you've got time, it's probably wise to put the Equalizer strap on in case it doesn't work out. Now, in this situation, and this is not how to do recoveries like I said, but when you're in sand, don't try and help the vehicle pulling you out because all you're doing is digging yourself in. Remember the rule. I've got a video how to drive on sand or sand driving 101. It goes for quite a while. There's a bit of chit chat. It's a pretty relaxed video. It goes for about 40-45 minutes. Go and watch that. There's a lot of tips in there. I know it's windy and whatever. It's hard to hear, but you just got to be patient because that's what happens when you're out on the beach. Okay? Now, what you want, the vehicle that's being recovered, you don't want them to help because you already dug in. You don't want to dig in anymore. You need to let the recovery vehicle pop you out of the hole. Once you're out of the hole, then you can gently, not plant the foot, spin the wheels and dig yourself in again and hold them back and get them bogged. Gently get on the gas. Remember the idea of driving on sand was to stay on top and not dig. So that's what you've got to do in that example. Now let's go to the next level. You sat there a bit too long because it's a cold winter's day. There's not too much traffic. You'd have to have your rocks in your head to go to Fraser Island on that cold, windy, drizzly day because nobody else did. You're on your own, but you had a peak of sunshine and you stopped to take your photo, and that's when this situation happens. So you've been there a bit longer. The waves are washing in, and you're sort of the sand's coming. You're buried to about the bottom of the bash plate, or that's what it looks like. Okay. Now you've kind of got a situation where your four wheels are in a hole. You're in concrete, but so that's the good news. It is solid underneath, but you're not going to drive out of it. So don't even bother. What you really need to do there is you need help. This is why you don't travel on your own. You need help. You need people that are prepared to help. You kind of need 4 people digging the sand out in front of the wheels would be helpful, and you need to have the Equalizer strap on, and you need to don't help the recovery vehicle. You need to pop out of the hole first, right? Digging alone may get you out. The problem you got is you got the tide coming in, the waves washing the sand back in the hole again. It's going to fill it in faster than you can get it out. That's why I'm saying you need 4 people. There's a chance you could get out. Of course, your tyre pressure is a big thing, but this is not the video about how to drive in sand, so I'm just going to stop it. I'm going off topic. We've got other videos. We've got the other channel too. I'll just show you quickly in case you haven't seen it, because it's the one that's got all the touring information and that sort of stuff. See at the bottom there, right? We've got the automotive channel. That's what you're on now. The touring channel, right? Very similar. 4x4 Touring Australia, okay? So that's where you're going to get information on outback places in Australia, the tracks, the techniques, where you may get in trouble and where you won't, and how to get out of it, that sort of thing. So recovery points, fancy words. Of course, just remember, I want to do a video, the top 5 things not to buy, and I'll tell you what, recovery points is going to be right up there, okay? Now, I just want to give an example. A Nissan Pulsar that's made overseas is going to come over on a ship, and they put these tie-down points, and I haven't got one here to show you, but, they're pretty thin. They might be a little bit thicker than that bash plate, and they point downwards like this, and they're like two pieces usually spot welded together, and they go up on the side of the chassis and they're kind of spot welded. Now, they are quite strong as well. We have towed vehicle with those, right? We have towed vehicles using those. We've found vehicles holding Astras out on the tracks, okay? Now, quite often if it gets serious, we're going to use something stronger, like we're going to go and hook around here under this control arm. That's quite strong. It's safe. It's not going to go anywhere. If you had to pull hard enough, you may damage it, but if it's a matter of losing the vehicle, we're not too worried about damaging a control arm. And I'm talking on one of those smaller vehicles, okay? It's not going to probably damage on pulling there on this vehicle, okay? But I'm going a bit off topic. I'm trying to say they're the tie-down points. Go and look at those small cars that come from overseas, maybe not only overseas. I'm just using an example. You find these small four-cylinder cars, cheap ones, they come from overseas. They'll probably have one point at the front at one side and a point at the rear on the opposite side is usually what I've seen. Not taking too much notice, but when servicing vehicles, you notice these things. They're tie-down points, okay? These are not tie-down points. So if you listen to someone that's telling, oh, they're tie-down points and you need proper rated recovery points, you're probably at a full drive shop that wants to sell you something. They'll be all nice and colourful, yellow or red. It's all the big safety thing and whatever. I'll tell you, just adding more weight to the vehicle, you're just putting more money into the vehicle. In my opinion, these are there. They're at both sides. Between the Equalizer Strap, you're going to pull this thing out of just about anything. If you're buried down to the bash plate, I would put my money on. You would be able to put the Equalizer Strap on, and with a little bit of digging in front of all four tyres and a little bit more than a metre slack, probably 2 metres, and a bit of a moderate takeoff, you don't need to go like a rocket ship. You can build up to that if you like, but then you've got to start thinking about it. You should have dampeners on snatch straps. Think about where your shackles are. Think about where the people are. It starts to get dangerous. So the biggest point of this whole video, I suppose, is not even whether you need recovery points or not. It's don't be stupid, okay? Stay away from the water. The water is going to take your vehicle, okay? So kiss it goodbye if you want to take risks like, all these ones up near Rainbow Beach, where you go around that area there. Driving out in salt water, mate. Do you want to end up with a rust bucket? Stay away from the water. And a little safety tip, when you're driving on these beaches, always watch out for washouts. They can be on any beach, anywhere, and it changes all the time. Guys, in my opinion, our vehicles, this is what they look like. This is what we use when we're out on trips and people have got the fancy red, yellow, orange, whatever. Quite often we will use these because I'm looking at the things going, it's bolted, who did the bolts up, how strong are the bolts, where were they made, what are they rated to? I just don't trust them. I've used a number of Chinese bolts fitting other, we used to fit bull bars and stuff on, people would acquire these cheap bull bars and the bolts just stretch and break, and I don't trust any of it. You know what? I trust this, okay? So I'm not going to make up your mind for you. I've told you the information, how thick it is, how it's welded, how the weakest point's going to be the chassis back there, somewhere where it's welded, and all these recovery points I've seen, none of them go beyond where, say, for example, there's a weld right there where my hand is, and they all finish up in front of that. There is a hole further back where you could go to, and that may be helpful, but you're still pulling a situation from down here. There's still an angle going on, which is going to make it want to shear and tear the weld along the bottom there, so whatever, okay? If you're pulling that hard, you're going to rip the car to pieces. It's very rare. We've seen a lot of these recoveries, no problem, using these points. They're toe points, they're not tie-down points. Thanks for watching. If you like that, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. What am I saying? Have you ticked the box? What's tick the box? It's subscribe. It's turn the bell on. It's give us the thumbs up. It's bada bing, bada boom. Anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch ya. And you thought it was bada boom, bada bing? I thought it was bada boom, bada bing. I just want to show you a closer view. We've done this before, right? I just want to show you a closer view, right, of those welded points, right? There's a lot of steel and welding going on. It's perfectly strong. I would all but guarantee you could not rip those out of that chassis right there. It ain't coming out, right? What I would imagine and what I've seen is that hole, you might, see up here where, you're just going to tear it. See where the upright peak goes to the weld there? That'll tear off. And even if you connect it where those bolts are there, see there's another welded area right there in the middle of the picture, going up and down, finishes just before the end. I'm not saying it's weak. I believe that part of the chassis is about 2.5 mil thick. It's quite strong, but depends how you how hard you pull the vehicle, right? And we've seen the evidence. Anyway, just wanted to show you that a closer view. That is definitely bada bing, bada boom, catcher. Hey guys, I thought I was done too, but I thought I'd show you this Hilux Rugged X. These are by far the best, and they're not aftermarket recovery points. Again, Toyota standard on the Rugged X. If you're gonna have something aftermarket, have something decent, you know. Look at this engineering, right? That might be better than the standard toe points, in my opinion. Just wanted to show you those. Hope you like them. Thought I better just quickly mention the back. So I keep tricking you. I think I'm done and you think I'm done as well, but I'm not. Normally there's a point that's bolted on here that it's got the same sort of steel tube and it's welded to the bracket and the bracket's bolted to the car. So not as strong as the front, but the chassis and where it's mounted makes it stronger. Again, usual rules apply with gentle recoveries. Hopefully you haven't driven into something too hard so you don't have to get pulled back too hard, and usually your recovery is going to be happening from the front anyway. If you've got a tow bar fitted like this vehicle does, then you can use the tow bar. Obviously it's only rated to what it's rated to. This is the whole point. You can have 8-ton straps and whatever you like, but this tow bar is rated to what, 2.5, 3-ton type thing. So keep that in mind. There's a couple of ways you can do it. It's much easiest if you put one of those recovery points in here. You get them cheap for about 35 bucks or something with a shackle. You leave it in there permanently, makes it easy for people to connect if they're going to help you out and pull you out backwards because you went into something you shouldn't have. Don't go in too hard because it's just going to make it harder to pull you out, but generally what goes in must come out, usually pretty easy. The other thing you can do if you haven't got one of those recovery points, you set it up like this. You pull this pin out, see that pin there, take that off, obviously. Take this out, put your strap in the hole there and put the pin through the end of the strap will do. What you'll get though, you'll get a bit of rubbing on the strap on the side of this parts here, which is why I don't really like it. I prefer to use the shackle. Anyway guys, that just included a little bit for the rear as well. Just don't drive into the wrong places and you won't need to use your recovery points. We don't. Thanks for watching. See ya.